Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Sucks. Well, alright, I'm muted. Welcome everyone to live coverage from the Formula College World Championship up in Montreal, Quebec, where today we'll be racing at the Circuit Gilles-Villeneuve for the running of the Montreal Grand Prix, our fourth road course of the season, following last week's thriller at Texas. It'll be a hard act to follow, but I can guarantee that we are going to get there with another highlight reel. The last time we were on a similar track was at Long Beach, and we saw a fantastic race there. Late move by Cale Davidson secured him the win, and a battle that went all the way to the final corner between Ben Fiore and Clint Halterman settled P2. And I have to believe that we're going to see some similar players today. The past couple of seasons, both Season 4 and Season 5, the Formula College Series ran at this track. And it was some of those exact same names: Cale Davidson, Ben Fiore, Clint Halterman. How about Muhammad Alif, who has won, I believe, 3 different road course races this season. Alif sure to be another contender today. I would predict that that 12 car from Ball State could be your pole winner. So pole qualifying going to start in about 3 minutes here, and then 10 minutes after that, we will know what our starting lineup is. So we're now getting into the second half of the season. This is race number 8 out of 14 total races that we will compete here in the Formula College World Championship. And so I've got the point standings here. We'll take a quick look at that. Right now, still leading the points is Cale Davidson from Ball State, but he only has a 12-point lead over teammate Muhammad Alif. That gap has shrunk a little bit over the past couple of weeks. In third place is Wyatt Burton, who has won the previous 2 oval races that we have run here in the FC Series, but he has also been a pretty incredible and notable road racer. He's run really well at most of the recent road courses, specifically at Long Beach. I believe he was up and finished that race in the top 10. So even though we're not only turning left, Wyatt Burton going to be another guy to pay attention to. And 5th place in the standings is Jake Cummings. Seems like he just can't break through to get that win. He's been oh so close a couple of times, but tonight maybe could be the night for Jake. Not one of those names that I mentioned initially, but still a pretty good road racer in his own right. So definite possibility that Cummings could be up there. 6th place in points right now is Ben Fiore. Aiken Lamar is 7th, and I should add that 4th in points right now is Clint Halterman. He is within 40 points of Cale Davidson, so he has a chance to potentially get the overall championship, but as it stands right now, he is leading the alumni Championship. So, of the drivers who have already graduated from college, Clint Halterman is leading that point standings, and his next closest competitor is Aiken Lamar. Right now, it is about a 60-point split between those two drivers, but 7 races still to go in the season, still plenty of time to close up some gaps, see some shuffling. We've seen shuffling already this season. Looked like maybe a Leaf was going to break off, get away, and then between Indianapolis, Texas, and Long Beach, a little bit of a chink in the armor there for a Leaf, and he now sits second in points. So let's take a look at the track and what we'll be racing here today. The Circuit Gilles Villeneuve is a little bit of a hybrid course combination of public roads and typical road course turns. 2.7 miles, sorry, I believe that's a little bit backwards, 2.7 miles, 4.4 kilometers, and 14 very technical turns. All of these turns lead into pretty heavy braking zones, a lot of switchbacks, a lot of technical stuff that these guys are going to have to maneuver through, an incredibly heavy braking zone down into turn 11, which I believe is going to be our easiest passing zone, so likely where we will see the most opportunity to make a position, and also a spot where you could lose a position. As we said, we've seen this race quite a few times before. Davidson, Alif, and Halterman, some of the best, and this race sits at 55 laps long, so it's going to be a pretty long one. 14 turns per lap. Somebody can do the math for me. That is a lot of turns, and each turn is pretty mentally demanding. So we're going to go ahead and get started with qualifying now. Just about to begin. Drivers putting in their initial laps. They have about 10 minutes to try to put in the best lap that they can, and everyone trying to make the 105% rule. Between practice and qualifying, you must set a lap that is within 105% of the leader's best lap. If you can't do that, unfortunately, you will not be able to race. And we've seen that bite a couple of drivers thus far this season, so everybody going to go as hard as they can in qualifying to try to avoid that cutoff time. In addition, there's also a cutoff of 40 different drivers, so you have to be in the top 40 of qualifying. We have not seen 40 drivers attempt a race yet this season, but could be an opportunity to see a large field here. So we'll just have to see. Well, looks like we're going to take a look at Muhammad Alif now, as Alif going out for his qualifying run. Should be a pretty solid example of what you want to do here on this track in Montreal, Quebec, as this should be his warm-up lap. And as you can see, we're dealing with a lot of fog tonight. The weather conditions going to be tricky both for the drivers and the broadcasters, so we'll try to do our best with limited visibility, but it is going to make the race a little bit more interesting, and it is also going to give us something to talk about in terms of temperature. Within iRacing, humidity and temperature have a huge impact on how the car drives, what the maximum speed of the car is. And as you can see here, Alif being really careful. This is his out lap, so he is just trying to build up heat in those tires, do as much as he can. He's going to drive off into the fog, and it's a little bit easier to see for him, but it's still going to be something that is going to play into these drivers. This is the viewpoint of Muhammad Alif. And that switchback right there takes him out of turn 14. The final turn is he's now down the home stretch and going to begin his first qualifying lap. If we could ride along board with Alif here, we'll take a look at what your lap around this Montreal track looks like. Your first switchback, a left and then a right. That turn 2 corner exit, a little bit of a sweeper, takes you all the way around into a long straightaway here. That's going to set up a heavy braking zone. Another switchback. So you see he gets all the way down in third gear, a little bit squirrely on corner exit. Down this winding straightaway, that's turn 5. Now another switchback, third one of the track. This is 6 and 7. Another little bit of a loop on corner exit there, down one of the longer straightaways on this course, which is going to take him into a final switchback, switchback number 4. An exit to this is incredibly crucial, because coming up on your right is that super heavy braking zone, that hairpin that I talked about. And here it comes right on the right. He's going to go a little bit wide, cut down into the corner, hit the apex, and put the power down. Pretty wide room to exit. I think on his second lap, he's going to want to use a little bit more of that runoff to get as much speed as he can down the longest straightaway on this course, the Casino Straight, through turn number 12. And he's now going to hit 13 and 14, which is the final switchback on this course. To the right, back to the left, through the Wall of Champions, and he's going to put the power down, stick to the right here to set up his entry into turn 1, as that is a lap here in Montreal. It looks like Alif was actually pretty happy with that. He's going to go ahead and park it, and he sets a lap time of 1 minute 19.4, which is 0.4 of a second better than teammate Cale Davidson. Sorry, that's 119.6. Now taking a look at Wyatt Burton from Trine University, made his debut in the Collegiate Cup Series on Monday, driving a NASCAR stock car around Indianapolis, and ran incredibly well. Looking to continue a little bit of that momentum into this race, and that is going to start with qualifying well, as he is still on his first lap, and thus far he has slotted himself up into the 3rd position. This is actually his 2nd lap. He's giving it another go. He thinks that he left a little bit out there on the track, potentially an opportunity to move up a little bit farther. He's been a good qualifier this season, and he's been able to translate that into gaining track position throughout the race. A little bit slow there, but so Wyatt Burton, going to be definitely a guy to keep an eye on, even though we are not on an oval. Something else to keep an eye on is going to be tires. We've talked about this. For every road and street course that the FC Series runs, there are 2 different tire compounds. There's that red sidewall tire. You can see it there. Wyatt Burton's running them right now. That bright red on the inside of those Firestone tires. That compound is a little bit softer. It offers a little bit more grip, but at the expense of falling off and losing that grip quicker compared to the Prime tire, which just is a regular black sidewall tire. Going to be a little difficult to tell in the fog, but the tire that these drivers are on could be super dependent. We've seen in the past huge differences between the 2 different types of tires. The reds being really good for a couple of laps once you build heat up in them, but by the time they get on the long run, they become super slick, super slippery, and they just lose all of their grip. That could be a little bit different if we are racing on a cooler track here today. Could provide a little bit more life to those red tires and maybe make them preferred even on the long run compared to the black sidewall primaries. Wyatt Burton right now sitting in 4th, and it looks like for the moment he's going to stay there. And now taking a look at Clint Halterman. Clint Halterman able to give us a live look in. That is him and his setup as he goes through his qualifying lap. Thus far, he's already slotted himself up in the 5th spot with a 120.5 as he goes winding down here. That was turn number 5. Now he's going to go into 6 and 7, getting all the way up on that curb, using as much curb as he can. Shortest distance around the corner, leading to the most grip as he goes down the straightaway. Muhammad Alif has put up a little bit of a better lap here. Alif went back out and dropped a 119.3, so he shaved 0.3 of a second off of his lap time, and it's just going to make it all the more difficult to catch him here. Still 3 minutes, so somebody could do it, and still a little bit of shuffling yet to do in the starting order. But for the moment, it looks like it's going to be Alif and Davidson on the front row for, I believe, what would be the 6th time this season. I can't think of a road course that we've run, at least not one in a while, where it hasn't been the 12 and the 2 leading us side by side to the green. As Clint Halterman there gets through turn 14, he's going to complete his lap, and we'll see if he can move up in the standings. 1.1 seconds off of Alif, so still plenty of room to gain. And now we're going to take a look at here. This is Andrew Voigt riding along from the point of view of Andrew Voigt. That's his setup there. Thus far, he has qualified himself in the 18th position, looking to gain a little bit of time. And Voigt's a guy that we haven't talked about a whole lot this season representing Penn State, but he's been pretty consistent. Right now, I believe he's about 13th in the standings, and looking to improve on that a little bit. But thus far, you know, Andrew is the reason we haven't talked about him is because he hasn't been crashing a whole lot. You know, some of these guys, some of the names we point out are names of guys who kind of get involved in some accidents a little bit. You know, something that winds up on stream is usually something exciting, and sometimes something that's exciting for us up here in the booth is something that is not exciting for the drivers involved in the incident itself. But Voigt's run some pretty clean races thus far, which means we haven't talked about him a whole lot. So for that very reason, we'll give him a little bit of a shout out. Good job for Voigt for staying out of trouble. And I saw him miss a couple of apexes there, so it wouldn't surprise me if he wants to give this lap another go. You see, he's not quite all the way on that curb, and I think there are valuable tenths of a second to gain if you can get the car a little bit farther to the right or a little bit farther to the left and use all of that red and white curbing. We'll see. If this is just Voigt's out lap, then he may just be trying to be careful and make sure he doesn't wreck the car, but I believe this is one of his hot laps. So with a minute 40 left, we're talking about lap times in the minute 19 range. He will have the chance to try again, but a little bit far off the curves there for Voigt. And that is maybe just something he could do a little differently, try to gain a couple tenths. Could also have something to do with visibility. We talk about the poor visibility, and we'll have to see in the long run how that is going to play into this. But this is what it looks like from his point of view, as he is going to head into pit lane there, goes straight in turn 13, gets down to pit road speed, activates his pit limiter, and going to head into his pit stall. So it looks like the end of his qualifying run for Voigt, and that is going to slot him at the tail end of the top 20. We'll see if he stays there or not, but that's Andrew Voigt from Penn State. He's going to go back, take a look at that, and maybe take a little bit of a breather, as we are just 1 minute until the start of the race. Then we can grid up, we can get this thing started. So from what I'm seeing there in qualifying, it's going to be a pretty typical CIL road race. The Ball State drivers qualifying really well. Talk about Muhammad Alif, Cale Davidson, but Lucas Moody, also from Ball State, had a pretty good qualifying run put together there in the 13 car. And so he is another guy that we could keep an eye on. He's run good here in the past. He's run good at road courses in the past. Overall, he's had a lot of bad luck this season. I think Moody is a guy, unlike Voigt, where we've talked about him quite a bit because unfortunately he has been caught up in some of those incidents. They're exciting for us, but not quite exciting for the Moody fans. So hoping to turn it around today for Lucas Moody, maybe get a little bit of better luck on his side and try to move up in the standings. Let's take a look at your final qualifying results. I believe those are in, and we should see momentarily what our starting order will look like and how we will roll off. So we'll get that pulled up for you here. Starting on the front row, once again, are Muhammad Alif and Cale Davidson. Half second separating those two in their qualifying times, both from Ball State, but both plenty to be proud of. And here rolling off in row number 2, a couple other really accomplished road racers, just 0.02 of a second separating them in qualifying. That is Ben Fiore from Marist and Wyatt Burton from Trine University. Rounding out the top 5, there's Lucas Moody from Ball State. He starts alongside your highest starting alumni driver, Clint Halterman from UNC Charlotte. Jake Cummings rolls off 7th, and my man, my coach, Ryan Whitlock from the University of Alabama, Huntsville, he'll roll off 8th. Dylan Beatty will roll off 9th, also for Ball State, alongside Thomas Crump from Clemson, making his first start of the season. He'll start this race inside the top 10. Rolling off 11th, Aiken Lamar for Howard Community College. He starts alongside Nick Henley from Ball State University in the 64. Keegan Calick had a pretty good season going so far. He's going to continue that from the 13th position for St. Clair College. He starts alongside Drexel University's Jason Waller. Rolling off roll number 8, it's our very own producer for the Cup Series, Christian Hill. That is from Mount St. Mary's University, and alongside Nick Stockner, the number 124 from Clemson. Excuse me. Rolling off 17th, it's Andrew Burrell from Clemson University, and Matthew Nordberg, the 076 from NC State. Starting 19th, it's Jacob Dick in the 22 from Ball State, alongside Andrew Voigt, able to hang on to the 20th spot, so he'll roll off outside of row number 10. And we are going to scroll through back to the 21st position. We'll give this graphic a second to sort out here. But we'll have the remainder of the starting order for you here in a second. And then after that, we're going to get an opportunity to talk to Nick Stockner. So rolling off in 21st, just outside of the top 20, is going to be Adrian Tubakovic for St. Clair College, starting alongside Alex Finity, another alumni from UNC Charlotte. Rolling off in 23rd, Marlo Duncan from the Milwaukee School of Engineering. He's going to be a guy that I'd keep an eye on to move forward. He rolls off alongside Zohir Mirza from St. Clair College in 24th. Caden Hughes able to make the field this time, driving for Bruton Parker College, making just his second start of the season, and it looks as if Joseph Grajava did not make the field after being involved in a thrilling 3-wide finish last week. I do not believe Grajava was able to meet that 105% time. Unfortunately, that means Grajava from Purdue will not be racing with us today. So before we go green, we're going to have the opportunity to talk to Nick Stockner, our very own director of the Collegiate Cup Series. He'll be driving in today's race. We've got a couple of minutes to talk to him here. Let's bring him into the booth. Nick Stockner, we're going to think we only got you for a couple minutes, but how are you doing, and how does this race look like it's going to go for you?
It's going to be complete crap. We qualified 16th. It's our typical run here on a road course in these Indy cars, unlike the ovals last week where we run well and just get wrecked by other people. This ain't going to end well. It's very foggy. It's very difficult to drive. Visibility is extremely low. We were able to improve 2 seconds on quality from our prep this time, but it was only good enough for 16th on the grid. Not feeling too confident. We're just going to see what happens.
Well, we wish you the best of luck. Before you go in, we just want to ask a couple questions about the track itself. It looks pretty cold. Is it kind of a colder track? And how are the conditions, you think, going to change over the course of this one?
It's very cold right now. Just no grip anywhere, really. And as the run goes on, due to just the high humidity and just the low ambient temp and just all the clouds, I don't really think the track's going to rubber in very well. This race is just going to be a really massive hunt for grip. I don't think it's going to develop in the way that we want it to develop.
Well, we wish you the best of luck. We'll go ahead and let you get back to getting ready to grid up. I think we're set to go green here in a couple minutes. So thanks for taking a couple minutes to talk to us. Hopefully, we won't be talking to Nick at all any point in this race. If he does crash out, we might try to get him up in here and get him to talk about a little bit more. But you have it there from a guy who's been out on track in these conditions. Incredibly slick, incredibly difficult to find grip, incredibly difficult to go fast. And you know what we're about to do? We're about to send a field of 25 drivers off into turn 1 at maximum speed, with no idea how much grip they're going to have, and a sharp left-hander followed immediately by a sharp right-hander, followed immediately by a very high-speed straightaway. So it sounds like it could be chaos as we get this one underway. And like Nick said, very, very low visibility, very low temperatures, very low grip. Everyone going to grid up and see what they have. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about strategy. We've seen strategy be something that's come into play a lot in these races. When you pit, when you put on your red tires, how much fuel you take, when you take fuel. I think this race is pretty solidly going to be a 2-stop race. I don't think there's going to be anybody who's going to be able to make this race on just one stop, 2 runs of fuel. I believe it's going to be a 3-run race. Right here, estimated fuel window, you can see it there, 15 to 18 laps with a 55-lap race. That should work out to being a pretty solid 2-stop for everyone. Could be a few different laps that we see drivers pitting in, but for the most part, everyone will change tires twice. And that's going to be important because, as Nick said, the track is incredibly cool, and cool tires have the least amount of grip. Hot tires can certainly get slick and they can be difficult to handle, but cold tires are almost equally as bad. Your cold tires takes them a while to build up to optimal temperature, and it takes even longer if the track itself is cold, maybe only around 60 degrees Fahrenheit. You can see a lot of guys are going to be swerving under this initial pace lap, trying to build up any sort of heat that they can, but they're not going to be able to do that if they pit under green. You're going to be fired out of pit road, shot out of a cannon into turn 1, and you're going to have to find grip immediately. It's going to be a challenge. I think whoever can win this race is going to be the best driver who's the best at finding grip, the best at knowing where the limit is just before you get there. Always a challenging thing to do, but we're about to find out who can get it done through turn 13 and through turn 14. About to take the green flag for the Montreal Grand Prix. Muhammad Alif, Cale Davidson from Ball State are going to lead us to the green, and we're racing in Canada. Firing off into turn 1, we are side by side, and it looks like for the most part the top 10 able to make it through cleanly. Still side by side for the 4th spot, that's Ben Fiore eking ahead, and Cale Davidson goes off. He was able to grab the lead from Alif and then missed the corner there, but rejoined safely. Now Alif trying to see what he wants to do, but Wyatt Burton is going to stick his nose into the outside. Side by side, this through the exit of turn number 6, down the straightaway, and there is a huge wreck. Andrew Burl involved. I see Adrian Tubakovic, and this is all the way back at turn number 1, very beginning of the race. I saw that the top 10 got through cleanly, but now we're going to see that farther back in the field it was chaos. It looks like that's Drew Williams made a move. That's Adrian Tubakovic. Marlo Duncan goes through the grass to avoid it. Andrew Burrow looks like he got the worst end of it. Excuse me, that was not Drew Williams, that was Nick Stockner. Nick predicted correctly that there was going to be no grip. Looks like he made a little bit of a mistimed move. If we could get an onboard with Nick Stockner, that may show us where that one started. I believe the 124 car was 3 wide at the start-finish line. And there he is. That is Nick Stockner. And yep, he's going to go 3 wide into turn 1. And able to stay off of Nick Henley ahead of him, but not able to quite stay off of whoever he bumped into. I believe. I'm going to take another look at it here. Yeah, just gets in a little bit hot. And not entirely sure who that was. I see. So Stockner was able to make it through cleanly. That car doesn't have too much damage. Although it looks like shortly thereafter, Stockner is going to get way up on the curb in turn 3. We talked about in qualifying using too much, or not using enough curb, but using too much curb there for Nick Stockner. Looks like Jacob Dick may have been the car that Stockner made contact with initially. Muhammad Alif able to grab the lead from Cale Davidson. Wyatt Burton settled back into the 3rd spot, and something happened to Clint Halterman because that car slid back to 6th. Now he's tucked in behind Ryan Whitlock. A lot going on in turn 1. Now that's what happens when you fire them off. Down into a very tight corner with low visibility and even lower grip. Cale Davidson now making a look for the lead. This is into turn number 9, I believe. Excuse me, that's turn 13. Coming off of 14 down the wall of champions. Cale Davidson is going to lead us at the line. He's going to lead lap number 2. Down into turn 1. Alif going to try to stick right with him as Davidson locks up the tires just a little bit. There's Davidson there, I believe. Sitting right next to him is Lucas Moody. Those two drivers sharing a room, probably also sharing a little bit of data. Moody right now back in the 7th spot, trying to hold off Thomas Crump. As Cale Davidson still holding the lead despite locking the tires up just a little bit. And he's going to try to open up just a little bit of a gap on Alif now. If he can get a little bit of a gap, that'll help break the draft. But as it stands right now, if Alif is close enough, he's going to get a big tow down these straightaways. Basically a speed boost just for tucking in behind that car, following pretty close, gaining a lot of speed down the straightaways. Now down into turn 11, more lockup from Cale Davidson. Definitely he's driving that car pretty hard. Davidson on the push to pass, so is Alif going to use just a little bit to try to stay close. Like we said, want to maintain that draft. Wyatt Burton only a second back of these two, so he's going to be getting a little bit of tow as well through the final set of corners. Both those drivers ever so close to that wall. He barely put a piece of paper between the right front wheel of Alif's car and that tire barrier. But the farther out you can get, the more speed you will have. And that is why they call it the Wall of Champions, because if you miss, you will destroy right front of your car, destroy the tire, destroy the wing, and your race will be over. So Muhammad Alif following behind Cale Davidson. Looks like they are already catching a little bit of lap traffic. Not entirely sure that may be Nick Stockner. Stockner is going to just let him go, and now they're side by side for the lead. Gave an opportunity for a move to be made, and Alif takes it on the inside. Davidson backs out just a little bit, but now he's going to get a little bit of a run on the exit of turn 4. Going to look to the inside through turn 5. There's going to be another switchback coming up at the end of this straightaway. Little bit of defense. Excuse me, this is into the hairpin, and more lockup from Davidson. Alif able to hang on for the lead for now. But as they continue down straightaway, that toe is just going to give a run through Davidson. The entire top 5 on push to pass. They want to stay close together. They want to do what they can. As Muhammad Alif going to lead him into turn 13. This time, it's Alif leading Davidson at the stripe. And this is Cale Davidson. You can see Alif going to move off the racing line. Force Cale to follow him if he wants that draft. They're going to get down into turn 1. And Davidson really close to the bumper of Alif. No contact there, but he had to get out of the gas just a little bit to avoid hitting the bumper of the 12. And now both those drivers able to get off of the second switchback cleanly, following each other. I have a feeling these two are going to be in each other's tire tracks all day long, but unlike the past couple of weeks, Alif has not been able to establish an early lead. Excuse me, the past couple of road courses, we saw these two take off pretty early, and unfortunately, well, unfortunately for the rest of the field, but fortunately for Alif, as contact there, I believe Davidson grabs the wall just a little bit. We'll see if the damage affects that car, but unfortunately for the rest of the field, most other races, Alif has just driven away. But this time, Davidson and to an extent Wyatt Burton have been able to keep tabs on him a little bit, staying within a second here after 5 laps. Certainly they wish they were closer, had the lead themselves, but if you can see through the fog, still 5 cars all fairly close to each other, and Burton still looking to make moves. This on the outside of turn 13. There's Wyatt Burton in the 3rd spot, able to stay off the wall. He can see the leaders battling ahead of him. Still within a second and a half. Mr. Excitement himself earned the nickname for the way that he drove at Indianapolis, at Texas, winning both of those races, becoming just the 2nd multi-time winner this season. Hoping to make that 3 total wins on the year through turns 3 and 4. Right there, that curb on the right, excuse me, on the left, that's turn 5, and now going to be down into 6 and 7. Trying to avoid that mistake that Stockner made and get a little too greedy, use a little too much curb, but there, he grabs the wall on exit as well. And I truly believe that is a product of just how difficult this track is, but also how difficult these conditions are. Like we've said, limited grip, limited visibility makes it all the more difficult to judge just how hard you can push the car without getting into the wall. You want to get as close as you can, but you don't want to actually hit the thing, as like we've said, any damage will persist throughout the race unless you want to spend time fixing it on pit road. Either way, you're losing time to the leaders. Something did happen to Zohir Mirza from St. Clair College. Do want to mention that car out of the race, and Caden Hughes did not actually, looks like Hughes did not grid and begin the race, so we're not sure what the story is there for the car from Burton Parker College. Mears has been out for quite a while now, but there's that 24 car. Looks like Mears' day going to be done. Andrew Burrow in the pits. Looks like he's out of the race as well. Cale Davidson, a little bit more lockup. I'm not entirely sure what could be causing that. Could be something about brake bias, and there is what happened to Zahir Mirza. This was a couple of laps ago, and looks like grabbed the bumper of Marlo Duncan, and this was going into one of the switchbacks that looks like turn number 3, and then trying to rejoin, spins the rear tires and smacks the left front wing, and that is where the damage has come from for Mirza. So unfortunately, no fast repairs available on road courses, and that has taken Mirza out of the race. I do want to stand corrected. Andrew Burl and Nick Stockner, 2 different drivers from Clemson who were involved in a lap 1 scuffle. Both of those drivers have taken some repairs. They're going to be multiple laps down, but they still will be out on track. We saw this come into play at Long Beach. Long Beach was a battle of attrition. There's Stockner taking repairs right now. There is Burl out on track in the 24th position. But we saw this at Long Beach, where just being able to stay out and run laps was something that enabled a couple of guys to gain some spots when other drivers had even more misfortune. So that'll be something to keep an eye on there. Right now, we do have a battle for 5th. At least we did. Clint Halterman was able to get by Ryan Whitlock. And then just behind them, Crump has gotten by Henley. Here's Halterman. You can see he's got about 7 car lengths on Whitlock. Whitlock had the 5th position and was maintaining it for the first 7 laps or so. He's been passed by Halterman. Not sure exactly where the move happened, but a good move nonetheless from Halterman to lock himself into the top 5. And now he's going to get sent hunting down Ben Fiore. Fiore 7 seconds ahead of Clint Halterman. If we could maybe see which tire these drivers are on, that could be something to keep an eye on. You see Whitlock right now on the reds, Halterman on the blacks. Those are the tires that are a little bit harder, so they don't have as much grip at the beginning of the run, but towards the end of the run they should fall off less than those red softer tires. So we could see a position here where maybe those tires switched over a little bit. After about 7 or 8 laps of being better, it's possible that the red tires have started to give up. Whitlock losing grip, being on those alternate tires, and Halterman on the primaries was able to capitalize and make the move. So like we said, Halterman now trying to knock 7 seconds off of Ben Fiore to grab the 4th spot. But for now, he will be settled in the top 5. Just behind them, Lucas Moody has been falling back just a little bit. He's now back here in this train of cars, being led by Moody's teammate Nick Henley. They've got Jake Cummings between them. Jake Cummings back here in the 9th spot. Not where we're used to seeing this 95 car. Usually he's up there battling Halterman. We've seen him pretty much anywhere from 2nd to 4th on road courses and ovals this season. Hasn't been able to lead a whole lot. But right here he's looking, and he gets off in the grass, but he keeps his foot in it to the inside. Still, Henley doesn't let him have it. Now they're at the apex, and Henley gives it to him. But a hard-fought battle for 8th. Give it to Jake Cummings, which is right about where he qualified. So thus far, not a whole lot of progress made for Cummings. He's got a long train of cars behind him, so definitely not want to make a mistake. At the end of this train is Dylan Beatty and Aiken Lamar. Taking a look at Dylan Beatty there, another Ball State driver. Blocked in and focused, still with 51 laps to go. And something's happened to Wyatt Burton. Wyatt Burton has gone off. Burton dropped back to the 4th position. Looks like he's gotten back on track. Not entirely sure what happened to him, and just breaks incredibly late. And because he misses the corner, iRacing has told him to serve a slowdown penalty. Basically, iRacing has a procedure to stop you from cutting corners, where if you completely miss a corner, it will say, hey, you got to slow down and give up a half second, a second. Burton able to get over on the straightaway and serve his penalty without impeding Fiore. So classy move there from Burton. But it looked to me like he braked just a little bit too late, and instead of trying to force the car to make the corner, just decided to bail out, committed to missing the corner, didn't slide the tires, didn't damage the car, didn't overdrive it, didn't cause any issues. So Burton, I think there, did the smart thing, just miss the corner, take the penalty, and live to fight another day. He'd already lost touch a little bit with the leaders, so he went from being 2 seconds back to 4 seconds back, which is incredibly unfortunate, but he has the car to do it. I noticed that 26 car is on those red tires as well, and we've seen something happen to Ryan Whitlock. We've now seen something happen to Wyatt Burton, two of the more experienced drivers of this IR18 IndyCar, and I have to believe that if they're sliding around, it could have something to do with what tire they're on. You see Fiore is on the red tire as well, so avoided making a mistake, but fallen 4 seconds off the leaders. Still a pretty good run for Ben Fiore, as Lucas Moody has hit the pits. He was in 10th. He's now dropped down. I don't see any wing damage to that car. So not sure if this is a strategy play or if something else has gone wrong. But already rolling out of the pits. Not sure what compound he started on. I don't know if he even stopped. And we're being told that Lucas Moody had to serve a drive-through penalty, which is something that we have seen before. This has, been in place all season. This is a penalizing procedure. But Lucas Moody, for some reason, received a black flag, and the penalty that was deemed to be given to him was a drive-through of pit road. So no tire change, no fueling, not allowed to actually stop in his box, but he had to go straight in turn 13, hit pit road, drive down the pits at pit road speed, which is significantly slower than everybody else. That'll drop him from 10th to 14th, so valuable track position given up for a penalty. That moves Dylan Beatty up into the top 10. As we can see, these leaders have not let each other go. Muhammad Alif has maintained the lead, but he's only opened it up to, at max, 10 car lengths over Cale Davidson. They're using the push to pass a little bit. It looks to me like both of these drivers are on that alternate tire, so if they are sliding around at all, if they have lost any grip, they've both done it at equal rates because they are staying lockstep with each other. Not a whole lot of missed corners there. I think a little bit early on the apex for Davidson. Got off track just a little bit, but that shouldn't hurt him too much. No real damage to the two, and he's going to continue. As the battle for third, we can see here heating up just a little bit. Ben Fiore was able to get around Burton because Burton had to serve a slowdown penalty. So now Burton, who might be the faster driver on pace, is in the chasing position. So this could set up to be a pretty good battle here. Burton was a full second back, and he's now gone and narrowed that down to just a half second over the course of a couple laps. You see right there, good corner exit for Ben Fiore. I was looking a little bit farther back in the pack. This is Adrian Tubakovic. Tubakovic was, looks to me like he may have pulled the wheel just a little bit too far to the left to try to keep himself off the wall. And scary moment there for Andrew Burrell. But a safe rejoin for Tubakovic, able to get up to speed and get going again. Able to keep it out of the wall, and we're going to keep watching here because I don't think this is the end of the incident. Immediately behind him, I'm not sure who that is. There's a replay of the spin. You can see he gets onto that red curbing, and I think he just uses a little bit too much wheel. A little bit too much wheel to try to keep that car off the wall, but he was on the curbs. The curbs are even slipperier than the pavement. And now getting chased by... that car has disappeared from our ticker. Whoever's in 21st. That is Jacob Dick in the 22 car. For some reason not showing up on the ticker right now. Dick right behind Tubakovic. I believe Dick was involved in that lap 1 scuffle. At least had to go off track to avoid the incident at the very least. Not entirely sure what happened to him, but back in the 21st position for the 22 car. I believe up 1 from where he started, so hoping to survive and continue that trend of making up spots. Here's Nick Henley in 12th. Henley was in that train of cars with Cummings, Beatty, and Lamar. I don't see any damage to that car, so it could be in a situation where he just spun it a little bit. But this is what we're seeing. Stockner talked about it at the top of the show. Incredibly slick track. And you try to use just a little bit too much throttle or a little bit too much wheel, and the car will snap out from under you. These cars have grip to a point, but you push them past that point, and they will spin. Going back to Lucas Moody, after he served a slowdown penalty, he's been in a dogfight with Keegan Kallick and Marlo Duncan right now back in the 15th position. Kallick cleared him and gone a little bit up the road. Moody able to get ahead of Duncan. Now Duncan back there fighting, I believe that's Andrew Voigt in the 17th position. As Voigt's going to look to the inside and kind of backed out at the last second there. And missed the corner. Duncan misses the corner. Voigt's going to try to go around the outside, but he grabs the wall just a little bit. And that allows Jason Wallet to sneak into the battle there. That is Andrew Voigt's POV. And that's an interesting camera. Nice camera look there. That isn't just the driver. That is what the driver can see. You see he's got 2 screens set up. He's driving the car, of course, but he's also got a little bit of an overlay there on the side that's going to show him track map, maybe taking a peek at other drivers' pit strategies as he has to save the car on corner exit. You saw how far he turned his hands to the left. Let me tell you, that is an incredible save. That is an opportunity to really lose the car. That is a spot where you can very easily overstep that point, get past the threshold of grip, and Voigt able to counter steer all the way to the left and not only keep the car going straight, but he's kept it ahead of Marlo Duncan and he's held on to the 16th position. And on top of all that, they've driven away from Wallet. Wallet was brought into this battle, and incredible saves by Andrew Voigt, but also Duncan to not get into him, have allowed them to sneak away from Wallet a little bit. Now Wallet closes it back down, gets a pretty good turn 1 and 2, and now closing in on Marlo Duncan. I think Duncan kind of missed the exit of 2 there. As we see, this is what the driver looks like, not what the driver sees, but it's a look of absolute concentration, even back here in the back half of the top 20. Still incredibly competitive, still an incredibly difficult car to drive. As Marlo Duncan can see the 9 driving away from him just a little bit. You know, he wants to get up there, he wants to do battle, but I think right now the tires have worn just a little bit and just not as much grip as Duncan would have wanted. Duncan's had a pretty good season, all things considered. Talked about him in a good way a few times, and Jake Cummings has dropped down into the pit lane. We're going to see right here, instead of braking and whipping the car to the right to make turn 13, he is going to stay straight, get down, and hit pit road speed as soon as he hits that yellow cone. Now this pit stop is going to drop him back quite a ways, but it is a little bit of a short pit. I have to imagine that the compound that he started the race on was not his preferred compound, and so he wanted to limit the amount of time that he spent using those tires. And yeah, he started this race on the primaries and switched to the alternates. And so I have to believe that maybe the alternates are the tire that he wants to be on. And so by cutting this race into thirds, he's going to make that first third just a little bit smaller and spend a little bit more time on the other 2 thirds. So maybe if he's coming in pit on lap 16, he's going to stretch it to about 22 laps on this run, could get him to 38, and then he would have another 22 to the end. And if he runs both of these 2 runs on the alternate tire, that could mean that Cummings would rather be on the red. Something we're noticing as well, and we are super grateful for it up here in the booth, the fog has cleared up. We can actually see now. The driver's got to be happy about that one as well. But what it could also mean is a little bit of a hotter track. If the sun's out, it's not hiding behind the clouds, beating down directly on the Montreal asphalt, it is going to be making this track a little bit warmer, which could mean that it has a little bit more grip and could mean that the alternates are offering a little bit more speed than they were earlier in this race. Of course, we saw some lockups there. We saw Wyatt Burton get off course. We saw a couple guys get loose on corner exit, corner entry. Here's Wyatt Burton still back in the 4th position, has not been able to get to the bumper of Fiore, but you know, as this track heats up, it could make the reds a little bit more beneficial, and it could be a little bit of an experiment for Jake Cummings, trying to see exactly why, or exactly what amount of grip he is going to have with those red tires. So we'll see how this strategy shakes out. Earlier, I think I mentioned the race was 55 laps. 5 laps were added to the race to make it up to 60. I think just to kind of put everybody on the same strategy. You know, we've seen the situation in the past where there were some drivers that really tried a 1-stop strategy. There were some drivers that tried a 2-stop strategy. Got a little bit difficult with yellows. As we can see here, Nick Henley contact with, I believe, Jake Cummings, and I think that was Thomas Crump in the 016. Henley had Crump to his inside, and that car just got loose. Doesn't look like too much damage to the 95 of Cummings. As Crump missed the corner completely, I think Henley kind of bailed out, and at the last second realized that the 016 was sliding in front of him. And when he tried to cut that car back to the right, lost control a little bit and cut down in front of Cummings. Cummings now set to try to hunt down Christian Hill. Doesn't look like a ton of damage as Cale Davidson now, next driver to pit, he peels off lap 18. Davidson hits pit road. He was a second behind R. Muhammad Alif when all of this began, so we'll see how it shakes out. Wyatt Burton on pit road as well. Looks like behind them, Clint Halterman has come down to pit. So 3 drivers in the top 5 on pit road at the end of lap 18. So like we said, they were a few seconds behind each other coming into the stop, but we'll see after the outlap, which the outlap is its own kind of difficult thing to manage. You know, you're on cold tires. You don't know how these new sets are going to perform, especially if you're switching compounds. You're just not entirely sure how much grip you're going to have. So your outlap, incredibly important in determining how your overall cycle shakes out. And so we will have to see here in a couple of laps what the intervals are. R. Muhammad Alif yet to pit. He's opted to spend at least one more lap on this set of tires. There's Alif. Like we said, he'd opened about a 1-second gap on Cale Davidson, but not quite able to shake him. You know, wasn't able to just drive away. Davidson was there, and for a few laps early on, they swapped the lead back and forth, but now it's Alif having it pretty solidly. He continues once again as coming out of pit road next, right next to him there. Yep, that is Andrew Voigt. Voigt going to lose a lap, but Voigt should gain it back when Alif comes in. Voigt right now on the alternate tires. I believe he started on the primary, so he has completed his required swap. Here's Ben Fiore, had inherited the second position. He's going to drop down pit as well. And like I've said, this is your first stop of the day. Likely going to have to make at least one more. I don't see a situation where you would need to split it the rest of the race in third. So should be one stop for all of those guys. Muhammad Alif still has 2 pit stops to make. And so when he decides to come in, we'll be telling, I think, of how much grip he feels like he's got. Gotta imagine these guys are a little happier as he doesn't have a whole lot of grip there. No grip at all for the 12 of Alif. I saw him slide those rears, and I have to imagine that if he wasn't already planning on pitting this lap, he is going to make that plan now, because you slide those rears, and it just tears all of the good off of the rubber. Marlo Duncan in, Keegan Kallick in, Christian Hill in, and Alif has decided to pit, get those rear tires off, put some new ones on. Those rear tires have seen some things, and they are going to be retired. He is on the alternate, so we'll see if he swaps to the primaries or not. I have to imagine that if he likes the alternate tires, he'd want to end the race on that set, which could mean that he chooses this middle stint to be the stint that he runs on the primaries. Ryan Whitlock in as well right now. This is coming to lap 21 that both of these drivers have pitted. As we're taking a look at Nick Henley. Henley towed himself to pit road. But yeah, Henley been on pit road for a while. Could mean that out of the race. Unfortunate for Henley. I think this is definitely not the first time that he's been caught up in an incident this season across any series. He's also run a few races in the College Cup Series on Mondays. And Henley just not able to find a lick of good luck. Dylan Beatty, Aiken Lamar, those drivers on pit road as well. Lucas Moody, Matthew Nordberg, Jason Wallet, all deciding to pit. R. Muhammad Alif, after completing his outlap, has stretched it from a 1-second gap to nearly a 3-second gap. So a very efficient pit stop for Alif, but he misses the corner there. Same spot where he slid those tires coming into pit road. And it's just those cold tires lacking grip. It's going to allow Davidson to close down just a little bit. Behind them, there's a battle for third right now. Wyatt Burton actually cycled out ahead of Ben Fiore, but Fiore was able to get right behind him, lock onto that draft, stay in the tow. You can see he's close enough. Burton going to swerve to the left to set up the next corner. Maybe trying to break the draft there just a little bit too. As super squirrely on exit. You can see Burton on fresh tires. I think he's got the heat built up into those things. You know, he pitted about 3 laps ago. So they should have some heat in him. He is really trying to take advantage of the grip while he has it. They are on primaries. as now they're going to have to contend with a car coming out of pit road. Looks like that car not going to cause too many issues for now, but Burton and Fiore are flying. Looks like that is the 094 of Egan Lamar. Yeah, here's Lamar. He's lost a lap, had to serve a penalty, I believe. So I think it was a drive-through, what we saw with Lucas Moody earlier. Lamar down pit road, served his drive-through, and he is going to move out of the way, let these guys go. Pretty classy move there from Lamar, but Fiore taking the fight to Burton. Hard on the brakes through, I believe, the third switchback of the course, and this is the one that we've talked about being important. Going to set up, I believe, the hairpin, so this should take them down into turn 11. Incredibly heavy braking zone. Fiore's able to stay right there. Don't know if he's got an opportunity to make a move just yet. He's going to have to get a really good corner exit to try to set Burton up, but we know that Burton is really good at driving into the corner. That's where Burton gains a lot of time, a lot of positions, which also makes him incredibly hard to pass. So we'll see if Fiore can get it done. These two have been around each other since the drop of the green, and I believe that was Burton completely missing the corner. Yep, he's had to serve that slowdown penalty again. That's turn 14, just not able to get on the brakes hard enough without worrying about spinning the car. Now he's got to contend with Egan Lamar. Lamar has the preferred line there through turn 2, and that allows Fiore to open up about 9 car lengths. Still Burton and Lamar side by side. Lamar backs off a little there and lets Burton have it. But the second time through that same corner, a very costly mistake is Jacob Dick way off to the side, way off pace for the 22 car. Not sure what happened to him. And it looks to me that he's going to get too much curb. What we saw happen to Nick earlier, and spin it same spot we saw Tubakovic go around. But a good job for Dick, able to keep it out of the wall and rejoin safely. But my God, Ben Fiore's life must have flashed before his eyes. That's a pretty low visibility area. A little bit of a blind twist in the straightaway. And Dick was still coming up to speed. As we're going to back this up, and it looks like right along with Ben Fiore. Here's the viewpoint of Fiore. You can see putting the power down, and oh, there's a car there. That is the preferred racing groove, and there is a Ball State machine sitting right in it. But Fiore keeps his cool, hits the next couple of apexes, and able to stay out of trouble. He's got Burton breathing right down his neck again, though. Burton is there. At least within distance of getting into striking distance. I wouldn't say that he's quite there yet as he drives it super deep into the corner. He's going to pay for that on corner exit. Not able to carry as much speed as Fiore. Fiore, I'm seeing him being super smooth, not using too much wheel, not using too much throttle. That's why these guys are spinning out, They find spots of the track that just don't have enough grip, and then they try to use a little bit too much of the pedal or the wheel, or they're trying to shift into weird spots, something, and anything like that will spin the car out. But I haven't seen that out of Fiore. I haven't seen him miss a corner. He hasn't had to serve a slowdown or anything, so I may have just jinxed him. I certainly hope not. I've been cheering for Fiore all season. But another just really solid, really clean drive for Fiore. And thus far this season, that has translated into really solid top 5 finishes for the driver from Marist College. Definitely a good road racer, and showing it here today in Montreal. Egan Lamar has not gone away from these two. Fiore and Burton are running really good pace, and Lamar's been able to hang with him, so he's got to be kicking himself for having to serve a slowdown penalty, a drive-through penalty, because he's got pace. He's running pretty quick. So we'll see what Egan Lamar can do. This race far from over. Still 35 to go, which means if any other drivers get lapped, anybody falls back to them. There's a couple other drivers that are a lap down as well. Tubakovic and Duncan have both been lapped by Alif. And our Muhammad Alif is closing in on Alex Finity and Jason Wallet. Those two not super far apart on track, back in the 15th and 16th position, but Alif bearing down on them. There's Wallet in 15th, and I think way off in the distance should be the 123 of Alex Finity, and then way off in the distance of Finity. Yep, there is Alif. Alif's caught. Excuse me, that's not the 123. That is the 321. Got it backwards a little bit, but yeah, Drew Williams not racing here today, but the 321 car is, and we'll see if he puts the fight to Alif at all. Alif going to look to the inside, but Finity lunges into the corner. You can see how much faster Alif is through the middle of the corner, as he's going to pull alongside here. But this is a little bit of a defensive line from Finity, and nope, Finity is going to give it to Alif. He pulled off to the inside, braked early, still hit the corner, you know, didn't give up too much time, but just able to maintain a little bit of pace while not getting in the way of the leader. Muhammad Alif has finally done it. He's finally broken away from Davidson. To me, it was a little bit of a question of if, but I think for a lot of people, it kind of was a question of when. And that time is now. Here's Davidson, 4.5 seconds back, working through lap traffic. He's got the wounded car of Andrew Burl in front of him. Burl has been repairing damage all day. Burl going to move over and give the position to Davidson. Burl, I believe, 5 laps down, and so knows that he doesn't have much to fight for. Actually, he's fallen 6 laps down now. But he is still out on track, and that's allowed him to get ahead of Nick Henley and Nick Stockner. Not a good day for the Knicks. Not a good day to be named Nicholas. And so Burrow has been able to sneak ahead of those 2 guys. And if there's misfortune for anybody else, Burrow would be able to sneak his way up into the top 20. But unfortunately, continuation of kind of a rough season for Burrow. If memory serves, he was involved in crashes at both Texas and Long Beach. And I believe he had an incident at Suzuka as well. And those are 3 of the more recent races that we've run. So Andrew Burrow hoping to have a clean race, and going into turn 1, just not the case. But he's out here turning laps, representing Clemson, as Wyatt Burton has gotten by Ben Fiore again. But we'll see if he can make turn number 14. That's been his kryptonite all day long. Fiore going to stay there and stay smooth, as he's going to just follow that 26 car. This is still the battle for third. These 2 are kind of glued to each other. And unfortunately, it's 9 seconds up to Davidson, because I think they've got maybe some pace to keep with that 2 car. But Davidson's gotten track position early, and he's been able to hang on to it for now. Davidson 4 seconds back of Leaf, Burton 15. So pretty strung out, but battle for third is still a podium position. We're only going to interview one of these drivers. Unless there's misfortune on the top 2, this is the battle for an interview, an opportunity to come up here and sit in the booth and talk about your race. And add Cale Davidson, that's Wyatt Burton, trying to give that opportunity away, as I believe that was the right front tire that he locked up. Don't believe it really flatted it at all. No flat spots for the tires, but he's going to have to shake that one out, try to get the temperatures back to normal as he heads into turn number 13. He hits it that time. He gets out of 14 cleanly and able to stay ahead of Fiore. But under braking, Burton has had a couple of trouble spots, and I think that's just because he's incredibly aggressive. You know, I said it earlier, but that's really where he gains his time. He gains his time in the braking zones, and that becomes really important as a racer in traffic, because that is where you make passes. You typically can make a pass by outbraking someone and beating them to the apex of the corner. And so when Burton carries that same mentality just into running laps, it makes his individual lap time pretty fast. But if you're pushing that boundary and you're constantly on the edge, you're constantly on the envelope, that's where you get into trouble and you lock up tires and you miss corners. And so if I'm Wyatt Burton, you know, if he's got a crew chief or somebody, I'd be telling him, hey, 33 laps to go. You've got yourself in the top 5. You know, right there, you see he was super deep into the corner and put that left front tire, the left rear tire off into the grass. I'd be telling him, hey, you know, 33 laps to go. Let's back it down just a little bit. He's shown that even if Fiore gets by him, he can pass the 55 back. And so don't get looking in the mirror. Don't overdrive the car. Just stay smooth. And that should eliminate those problems of locking up the tires and overdriving corners. This is a pretty interesting storyline here, actually. Jake Cummings. This was the guy that I was just about to talk about before I grabbed some water. Looks like Cummings may have grabbed the wall just a bit, but we talked about him being the first one on pit road, and he pitted 13 laps ago and decided to put on the alternates after, I believe, starting this race on primaries. And ever since then, he's been making a lot of lap time. He caught and gapped Ryan Whitlock, and he is now trying to run down Clint Halterman. He was within a second before he grabbed the wall just a little bit. But he is, I believe, slightly faster than the 100. And I said earlier, those two are seemingly glued together. They're always battling for something. They're battling for second, battling for third, battling for fourth. It happens in the Cup Series. It happens in this series. It happens in the Sports Car Series. Jake Cummings and Clint Halterman, I hope they like each other because they spend a lot of time together out there on track. Right now, neither of them in the top three, which is a little bit of an abnormality, but it just shows that how good Burton and Fiore are on road courses. As Cummings misses the corner there a little bit, that car looked really slick. And that to me looked like, even though the sun has come out and the track is warmed up, it still doesn't have a lot of grip. Looking farther back in the field, Adrian Tubakovic has run and passed Alex Finity, and Jason Walt's gone a lap down. And you see there's Marlo Duncan. I think no, that's Finity, sorry. Something had to happen there because those drivers were outside of the top 15, and now they are inside the top 15 as Finity mows just a little bit of grass, and he continues to mow some grass, cut all of the curb and then some, and use those left side tires to do a little bit of landscaping for the Montreal city. So I hope Finity's paid for his services, but sitting in the 16th spot now, better than where he qualified, so I suppose it's been a little bit of a positive race for the driver from UNC Charlotte, but unfortunately, I don't think where he wants to be. I think he wants to be up in the top 10 and hasn't been able to make that happen today. But he's kept his car clean, only one lap down, with half of the race to go. Dylan Beatty, pretty good run inside the top 10. Beatty had a solid season up to this point there in the 20 car for Ball State. Right now sitting 9th, just ahead of Christian Hill. I believe this is producer Christian. I could be corrected if I'm wrong. But there are multiple Christian Hills in the world, which is strange, to say the least. So I'm going to check on that. But either way, this is the first race of the season for Christian Hill in that 085 car. And right now sitting on the lead lap and in the 10th position. So a top 10 in your first race. Nothing to be ashamed of. And the same can be said for Thomas Crump in the 016 for Clemson. His first race as well. Jake Cummings was running down Clint Halterman, and he has decided to throw his car on pit road. Jake Cummings pitting, and I think that he has proved me wrong and found that there is an alternate strategy. Jake Cummings been doing this all season in every different series, but trying to do something just a little bit different. Coming into pit on lap 31 means he ran 15 laps on his last set of tires. He pitted 16. He pitted 31. I don't think you can go 29 laps on a tank of gas. I just don't think it's possible, which means he's planning on making another stop. And we saw how much ground he was able to make up on both Ryan Whitlock and Clint Halterman over the last run. He's now slid from 6th to 8th, deciding to take what's essentially going to amount to an extra pit stop. And so the question is, will fresh tires, and specifically fresh alternates, but will that set give him enough time to overcome the time that he's lost by pitting an additional time? I can't really see a world where, you know, he pits a 4th time and it boosts him all the way to the lead, but this could be a net gain for Jake Cummings. Battle for 11th heating up right now. Andrew Voigt and Keegan Kallick going at it as Wyatt Burton able to put just a little bit of a gap on Ben Fiore. There's Voigt. I think Voigt got off track just a bit. Had to save that car. And excuse me, that's Keegan Kallick that got off track just a bit. That's Christian Hill just ahead of them, sorry. And they've driven off from Lucas Moody. We mentioned Moody was serving that penalty. There's Christian Hill. But yeah, those drivers were a little bit closer together. Something happened. Hill was able to escape, and Voigt was able to slide up into the 11th position, dropping Kallick back to 12th. Kallick had a really solid season going as well. This is a rookie year representing St. Clair. It's just, it's good. It's good to see guys come in and be able to be successful and run well. And Colleague's done a good job. Kept his car clean for the most part. He's done the exact same thing in the College Cup Series, driving that 29 car for St. Clair College. Was running in the top 10, I believe, in the early portion of this race. Now slid back to 12th, but if he can keep that car clean, like we've said, it's going to net positions. Cale Davidson has dropped it down on pit road with 28 laps to go, switching to alternate tires. And this one is going to be interesting. Looked to me like he got really close, cutting the pit exit there. I don't think that'll be a penalty. But boy, he certainly skirted it. And skirted the grass there as well. Kind of did what Finity did and cleaned the grass up just a little bit. But that car dropping from second all the way back to fifth. Now, like I said, pitting lap 28, with 28 to go. I don't know if you can do that on a tank of fuel. We saw Muhammad Alif run to lap 21 earlier. 22. And I believe that's about as far as you can go. So possibly something where Davidson realized that, hey, Jake is trying this and Jake is gaining time. Maybe I want to switch my strategy a little bit. Maybe I want to try something different. He was about 5 seconds back of Alif. Okay, I'm not going to catch him on pace. Let's try something. Let's throw something out there. Let's switch to alternates and go really hard on the short run. What I'm seeing is Muhammad Alif is on primaries, and his plan is to run long here. He's going to go probably all the way to lap 40 or so we won't see this 12-car pit for 6 or 7 laps. It looks like the tires are working as intended, and which means that if you have more pace on the alternates, but for a short amount of time, it might be worth it to just take alternates more and be on the short run more. As Fiore drives super deep into the corner, Burton can just not get away. He's able to open up a gap, and then it closes back up. And then he opens it again, and then all of a sudden, Ben Fiore is filling up his mirror. These two have been going at it. It's been a dogfight, 20 seconds off the lead, but you can tell that this is for third position. This means a lot to these guys. But Burton and Fiore have been going at it for, essentially since the drop of the green. I haven't seen these two get apart from each other. Here it is again. Burton going to open up just a bit of a gap down the straightaway. Got a pretty good exit. But it looks like Fiore somehow or some way is just going to close that gap back up. I think this is going down into 14. And it looked to me like Burton was just a hair more conservative there. That time was really smooth and really solid. So he's able to maintain the gap. But I've seen him be just a little bit more conservative going through that corner, knowing, hey, I've made some mistakes here. I've served some penalties. I don't really want to do that. Right there, gets wide on corner exit, and Fiore able to close right back up to the bumper of the 26 car. Looked like he's going to get a run here. This is down into turn 3, turn 4. Now there's turn 5. Burton got good corner exit that time, but Fiore did a better job of setting up turn 6, and he's just going to stay right there. Now they're not super close. They're not together. Fiore isn't close enough to make a move. But he is close enough to get right back up there if a mistake is made by Wyatt Burton. And now there he's close, and now he's going to get a look to the outside, possibly going to try to cross over to take the inside on the exit of the hairpin, but he's not quite side by side. Still a car length in between these two. But he is going to get the toe down the straightaway, and this is the longest straight. The Casino Straight, longest one on the course, means that this is going to give the most speed to Fiore, and oh no. The bad luck continues for Lucas Moody, the left front missing, and we're going to get a replay of it here. You see side by side in front of him. That's Christian Hill, was alongside Andrew Voigt. Keegan Calick had closed back up into that battle, and then Lucas Moody just got incredibly hot into the braking zone, and it tore the left front off of that car. We mentioned this earlier, that all these three were pretty close together. Voigt, Hill, and Calick. Moody was able to run all three of them down, and Moody was able to run all three of them down, and unfortunately, it bit him as Moody closed in a little bit too quick. Not able to react, wasn't on the brakes hard enough, and unfortunately got into the rear of Calic's car. We'll see if that means that there's any damage to the 29. Mentioned earlier, it's been a good run for Keegan Calic, and hopefully there is no damage to the rear end of that car. Once again, Fiore is going to enter the corner just a little bit later to get a little bit of a straighter drive off the inside of turn 11 and then try to get some momentum down the straightaway. It hasn't paid off for him yet, but what this does is it sets him up with a really good run in the 13. And we've covered it, and they are both heading into the pits this time. It looks like they're within their fuel window, and this is going to be an incredibly close battle. No mistakes here. You cannot slide the tires into the box. You cannot miss any sort of your marks. The race doesn't stop just because you're on pit road. This is as intense as the on-track action. Burton and Fiore both pitting with 23 laps to go. Halterman in as well. You see that green car sliding in behind him. An opportunity to maybe gain a little bit of time. And they're going to exit side by side. Fiore spins the tires. Burton nails the gas coming off pit road. Here comes Ryan Whitlock. Whitlock yet to pit, but that's for position. Now here comes Jake Cummings, and all of a sudden we've got 4 cars under a blanket, but Burton and Fiore are going to be on cold rubber. Looks like Fiore's put on the primaries because he's going to go the distance at the end of the race. Didn't see what Burton put on there, but he was so much cleaner getting back onto the gas. We saw Fiore got super confident on the throttle, got a little too confident, getting in the gas, exiting pit road, and oh my gosh. Burton wins the race off pit road, locks himself in the 3rd spot. Davidson passes all these guys to get back up to P2. Now looking at Ryan Whitlock there, that's the look of concentration. And he can see these spots now. He has yet to make a pit stop, but he knows they're on cold tires. He's going to make a dive to the outside, around the hairpin, and Fiore slides to the inside. Fiore saw a gap, took it, and that sets Fiore up for the inside of 13. He's able to maintain momentum, draft a little bit off of the 26 of Burton, but Whitlock got a great run off the exit and was able to clear the 55. Now, does Fiore have anything? No. He's going to sit in line and just follow these guys into the final switchback, but it's Burton, Whitlock, Fiore, and Cummings. Great defense there by Ryan Whitlock. He tried to make a move. It didn't work, but he made sure that he had momentum on corner exit to prevent Fiore from making a move. Now Fiore super deep into the braking zone. He's going to get right on the bumper of the 81. Here comes Jake Cummings. Clint Halterman is right behind these as well. You can see off in the distance, Halterman coming. This is some of FC's best. But if Whitlock and Fiore get side by side, that's just going to slow him up, and it's going to give Burton an opportunity to run and hide and get away from the 55, something he hasn't been able to do all race. He's always been stuck to the 55 like syrup, which is appropriate because it's Canada, but I'm sure that it has been annoying for the 26. Fiore, though, if he wants to get up there and battle his race-long rival, going to have to get around Ryan Whitlock. And how about Clint Halterman? When this battle started, Halterman was a full second behind Fiore, and now he is mere car lengths behind the 55. There's Halterman, and you should see just up the road. Yep, there's the red car, Ben Fiore. The purple car, Clint Halterman. Excuse me. Purple car's Jake Cummings. Cummings got a little bit of a crossover on exit. Not able to get a run, though, because of the draft. Look at the draft. Ryan Whitlock is on the push to pass. Closed that gap right back down to Wyatt Burton. Whitlock on the bumper of Burton. Fiore on the bumper of... Fiore on the bumper of Whitlock. They all go through 14, all past the wall of champions, staying right in a single file line with just 22 laps to go. This one is heating up. A little bit of a couple of different lines there through turn 2. I really like turn 2 at this track because you can kind of approach it a few different ways. You know, you can either ride along the curb, you can treat it like corner exit, or you can treat it like a corner of its own. You know, to me it looks like you've got a few different options. And we saw it there. They fanned out just a little bit. But this is an intense battle. Whitlock has not let Burton get away. Even though Burton's on fresh tires, I think the heat's kind of come into those new Firestone tires for the 26, the 55, and the 100, as those cars were all on pit road recently. I think their temps have built up a little bit now. So now that that's happened, we'll see if Burton can drive away. But Whitlock was able to hang on while Burton's tires were cold, use the draft to stay ahead of Fiore, but Whitlock on a different strategy than all of these different drivers. He's racing them now, but I don't know if he's going to be racing them by the end of the race. But either way, you know, it's always good to hang on a track position, always good to go as hard and as fast as you can. And Ryan Whitlock sitting in the 4th spot. Clint Halterman all over the bumper of Jake Cummings now. Cummings, I believe, still has to make a pit stop, though. Of this group, Whitlock and Cummings still have to pit. Cummings on significantly fresher tires than Whitlock, as you can see there. Ryan Whitlock on the same strategy as a Leaf. Remember, those two pitted on the same time. So we should see the 81 about in as the same time as the 12. Meanwhile, it looks like Cummings is on the same strategy as the 2 of Davidson. So those two still have to make another stop. Meanwhile, Burton and Fiore and Halterman, all of those guys could be trying to run long. So those drivers do not have to make another stop. And by the time this all cycles out, 26, the 55, and the 100, they should be on each other. And that will likely be the battle for third even by the end of the race. Muhammad Alif is on pit road along with Christian Hill and Keegan Kallick, who have gone a lap down. That is the blistering pace that Muhammad Alif has been set. We've talked about this before, but every single one of these road races, he manages to set a massive gap and lap some incredibly good cars. Alif is in, Kallick is in as well. And Muhammad Alif has completed, I believe, that was his mandatory swap. I'm not sure. And hold on a second. That's Cale Davidson. Cale Davidson, within a second of Muhammad Alif, they were 5 seconds apart when the pit cycle started. Davidson, I believe, switched his strategy to try to maximize the grip of the alternate tires. Right here, you can see there, Cale Davidson last pit on lap 33. I don't think 27 laps is possible on a single tank of gas, which means he's gonna have to pit again. But if he can get around Muhammad Alif, before that happens, he may have a shot to stay close. There is Ryan Whitlock, Dylan Beatty in the pits. And this one's got interesting. We've got quite a few strategies going on here. And on top of that, we've got cars in the same strategy that are right on top of each other. You can see everybody with a last lap pit number that's about the same is running the same strategy. Muhammad Alif, Ryan Whitlock, they have checked off their pitting to-do list with just 19 laps to go. Jake Cummings still has to make one. Cale Davidson potentially still has to make one as well. But for the moment, both of those cars inside the top 5. We saw Whitlock cycle out to the 7th position. Jason Wallet now pitting, and not sure what strategy he's on, but that car's made several stops. So potentially some sort of damage or something to the 76. But he's going to slide back to about the 15th spot, driver for Drexel. Halterman has not been able to get around Cummings yet. He ran him down a while earlier, and then after this pit stop, he was able to cycle out ahead of Halterman, but then it was Halterman's turn to give chase and lock right on the bumper of the 95, and they just have not let each other go. You know, if Burton and Fiore are best friends forever, then I guess Cummings and Halterman are going to have to be best friends forever too. These are a couple of duos that just cannot seem to separate. Here's Ryan Whitlock. He's actually cycled out to the 8th spot. Thomas Crump, making his first start of the season, got around the 81 as well. As, looks like in pit road, a lot of damage to... That is Aiken Lamar. The 094, here it is. Oh my gosh. I believe that's going into turn number 7, the 3rd switchback. And he got too much curb, a little too aggressive with it, and that car started bouncing. These cars are not supposed to bounce, they're supposed to ride pretty smooth. And when you drive them in a straight line, they do, but he bounced himself straight into the wall, and yes, that was the entry of turn 9, actually. Grabbed a little bit too much curb and lost all grip, lost control, nose first into the wall. Luckily, nobody else involved. He was able to rejoin safely. Here it is. Yeah, this is coming out of turn 5, setting himself up for the next set of switchbacks. So this is through 6 and 7, and then, yeah, he's going to get really aggressive here. This is turn number 8. I'm correct about it this time. 3rd time's a charm, but yeah, going into turn 8, you're going to watch him. Well, you would have, but yeah, I would have just grabbed a little bit too much curb. It's a mistake that we've seen before. But Ben Fiore still holding off Jake Cummings, and Jake Cummings still holding off Clint Halterman. I haven't really seen an opportunity for any of these guys to make a move. We mentioned it at the top of the show that there's really only one super prime passing zone here. Typically, when you make a pass, you want it to be followed by a straightaway. Most of these corners are followed by switchbacks. Makes it really hard to get that pass completed. But there is right here. This is the hairpin. This is turn 11, and Halterman, excuse me, that's Cummings in the purple car, treated this a little bit like it was a short track race there for a second. Tried to give Fiore the old bump and run, get him just a little scoreline exit. I don't think he did it on purpose. I think he just throttled up a bit sooner than Fiore, but no damage. It's all fair. iRacing doesn't care, and we are still racing with just 16 laps to go. Fiore, Cummings, Halterman cannot let each other go. Cummings on a little bit of a different strategy, so not sure how the 95 is going to shake out of this in the long run. Even if he pits, he may have the opportunity to switch himself to a short fuel map and run these two back down. Wyatt Burton's put a little bit of a gap on him, but you can see him there at the bottom of the screen. Burton hasn't completely escaped. If Burton makes another mistake, misses another corner, something like that, locks up a tire, we've seen it happen. He could be right back in this battle as well, which would move him back into the clutches of Ben Fiore. So we will have to see how this one shakes out. For the moment, we do want to take an opportunity to recognize everybody who makes the CIL possible. There's a lot of admins, stewards, and producers that do things behind the scenes. There's another replay of what happens to Aiken Lamar. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not another replay. That is another instance of getting on a curb, bouncing it around, and throwing it into the wall. And the hits just keep on coming for Aiken Lamar, just like a Smash Mouth song, man. That car has seen a lot. I believe that is the third or fourth incident that Aiken Lamar has found himself involved in today. This is going to be one to forget for the driver of the 094. Aiken Lamar representing Howard Community College, and unfortunately don't think quite doing the job that he wanted to, but hey, there's always next week, which is a great opportunity to plug next week. We will be racing at Road Atlanta, a little bit of home race for me and the University of Alabama Huntsville, just a couple hours away. I know a few guys who've been able to get out there and attend a race out there or get on track out there. Super great facility. We talk about it endlessly, how some people think it is the greatest track ever built, and I gotta be honest, there's some validity to that claim. It is a fantastic track to drive. I got to do some test laps in an Indy car at Road Atlanta, and I can confirm that we are going to be in for a treat. That time there is a little bit incorrect. Race will start, I believe, at a little bit after 9 Eastern is when the green flag will fly. But next Wednesday, same place, same time, same YouTube channel. If you want to make sure that you don't want to miss it, go ahead and do subscribe to our CIL YouTube channel. Go ahead and make sure, if you really do like our broadcast, you like what we're putting together, then go ahead and show it, like the video. It does really help our engagement, really helps grow the league. Know people are watching, know people are paying attention. We really appreciate you guys for tuning in, and so we are going to now take a look at the chat. There's that chat feature there on the side of the stream. If you want a driver that you want to shout out, you want a team that you want to shout out, go ahead, show them some love there in the chat, and we will get you some excuse me, we will get you an update on your favorite driver. Do want to update you, yes, that 8:45 Eastern is when the stream begins, but the green flag itself does not fly until shortly after that. So we'll have a little bit of pre-race coverage for you before the race goes. So I stand corrected by our producer Lee. Want to shout out Lee, doing a great job bringing us pictures today. We had to battle some fog early on, but we powered through, and now the sun's out. Sun shining here in Quebec with just 15 laps to go. So yes, stream will begin at 8:45 Eastern, green flag a little after 9 for the Road Atlanta Grand Prix. So let's take a look at the chat here. We've got some shout outs for number 26, Wyatt Burton. He's put up over a second now on Clint Halterman, has gotten around Ben Fiore. Not sure exactly what happened there. Halterman got by both Fiore and Cummings. Jake Cummings a ways back now, so not sure if he missed a corner or something. We apologize for missing that battle, but Halterman has snuck out ahead of Fiore, and now set to try to hunt down Wyatt Burton. Here it is. Here's the move. Fiore had a look to the inside. Halterman had a huge run on the outside. Jake Cummings threw it into the pits, which is how he lost that position. And through that entire exchange in turn 14, Halterman found himself on the preferred groove on the second corner of that set of turns, and was able to get a great launch off the corner, clear Fiore, put a couple car lengths up, and now Halterman going to try to hunt down Wyatt Burton, who's now opened up to about a 2-second gap. So it's going to be difficult. Don't worry, I know we do have a lot of Wyatt Burton fans out there. Certainly I'm a fan of Burton myself. I'm not supposed to be biased, but man, he's been exciting to watch all season. He's been great on ovals and road courses. I'm being told that I'm going to be fired for showing bias, which I don't think is really fair, because last week, Edward... no, it's always great to see these guys run really well. You know, Trine University, I think they're trying to grow their esports program a little bit. They had a couple of drivers in the Cup race on Monday, so it's great to see Trine doing well. As looks, I would believe that's a lap car. I believe that's Christian Hill. No, that's Aiken Lamar coming out of the pits. Halterman able to get by him clearly. Had a little bit of a sketchy moment there. But Burton right now pretty solidly hanging on to the third spot. I don't believe he has a chance to catch Cale Davidson. Davidson has lost about 5 seconds to a Leaf. I don't know if he's just gotten caught up in traffic or he's on a different tire strategy or what. It is possible that he could be trying to stretch this all the way to the end. You see they're pitting on lap 33. 27 laps on gas, I think, would be incredibly aggressive. But, you know, we've been wrong about fuel numbers before. I will admit that I've needed correction on fuel numbers in the past. Everybody else kind of seemed to want to split this race up into thirds, but Cale as well as Jake Cummings have kind of thrown themselves on alternate strategies. So I believe Davidson does have to pit. Whether or not he does, you know, if he is able to save enough fuel, he's going to lose a lot of time doing it. So either way, Davidson, I think, pretty solidly in the second spot, which pretty securely throws Wyatt Burton P3. So we should be interviewing Burton here in maybe 10 laps or so, but hey, it's not over until the fat lady sings, is a saying for some reason. But it really isn't. It's not over until the checkered flag flies. So we will keep you here for the next 11 laps and see if Burton can hang on to that third spot. Lucas Moody in the pits again. Similar situation to Lamar, man. It has been one to forget for Moody. I believe after this, he shouldn't have to pit again, but this is going to pretty much guarantee that that 13 car will finish outside the top 10. So pretty unfortunate for Lucas Moody. He's going to rejoin right next to Aiken Lamar. That is not for position. Lamar's multiple laps down, but two bad luck drivers. Maybe the negatives will cancel each other out. You know, maybe these two drivers being next to each other will cancel out all of the bad voodoo that we've seen. And as I say that, right as I say that, Lamar gets a little squirrely and decides to just let Moody go. I think whatever black cat Lamar has in his car, he does not want it getting anywhere near Lucas Moody's black cat. So we'll see if those two try to repel each other or if the bad luck cancels it out. But hopefully we see both of those guys much better at Road Atlanta. Gotta be just a rough day when you're finding yourself in the wall or making contact. So going back here, looking in the chat, Ricky Paz, not able to race with us today. He's our FC director and occasional broadcaster, but it looks like he is watching. He wants to know how I'm doing, and I gotta say, Ricky, my throat is having a day. Being the only one to talk about these races I'm gonna need a Halls or something, maybe some chicken noodle soup after this one is done. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes to get a drink of water. Can we do a crank it up? It'd be really cool, I think, if we could get a crank it up. You know, these FC engines sound pretty good. If we could do that, I'm going to get some water and take just a second. Alrighty, I've gotten myself some water. Yeah, I agree, Ricky. We need tea or something. I'm personally partial to hot chocolate. Honestly, hot chocolate goes really good. Even when it's not super hot out, I would drink. I think Swiss Miss would be a fantastic sponsor for the Formula College World Championship, but it's just my personal opinion. All right, I'm back. I'm gonna try to stop coughing and call the rest of this one here. Just 10 laps to go, and I think that means it's an appropriate time to maybe take a look at the top 10, as Cale Davidson has thrown it down pit road. We'll see where he shakes out. Should be just ahead of Wyatt Burton, as he's going to put the power down. And Cale Davidson coming out of pits here, and he's actually, hang on a second, that's Wyatt Burton. Cale Davidson comes out of the pits behind Burton. He's going to have cold tires, but once they heat up, he's going to have fresh tires. And just when it looked like 20 seconds was going to be something that Wyatt Burton was not going to be able to make up, Mr. Excitement has gone ahead and made it exciting. Burton just ahead of Davidson now. There's only a couple car lengths between them. And we have had the pleasure of being joined actually up in the booth by Ricky Paz. Ricky, if you have something to say, welcome to the booth. Weren't sure we were going to see you tonight. But yeah, how's it going, Ricky?
Oh, I'm just stopping by, to say hi and to say thank you to Cade Corbin and Lee Kane and to all of the viewers that are watching tonight. We've got a battle on our hands from the Mr. Excitement, Wyatt Burton. Ladies and gentlemen, I think this is going to be a battle to see.
This is one that you are not going to want to miss. And I have a feeling, the way that we've seen Dirty Air and the draft play factor in this entire race, that this is going to be one. And hang on a second, Wyatt Burton now in pit road. I'm pretty sure that car was just about guaranteed to make it on fuel. So unless this is serving a drive-through penalty for something, I don't see why Burton would pit. But no, he's going to come into his box and change tires. Ricky, if you've been watching this whole race, is there anything here that would indicate why Burton would be on pit road?
Well, tires are a big strategy here, right? The alternates are definitely what you want to be on for a quick lap time. I don't think Burton loses out on too many spots. As I say that, he's fighting with Jake Cummings on the exit of pit road. It'll be interesting to see what this strategy does, but I'm not really sure the fuel numbers, I run the league, but I took an entire week off, so I haven't talked to any of my guys and talked to any of the team. I think that realistically they should be fine on fuel, but this tire strategy might pay off. We're going to see these reds come up to temperature real quick as we see Mr. Excitement right on the bumper of Jake Cummings, the sick Jake Cummings this week doing his Jordan Flu game. What a block to the inside. Holy moly, this is going to be a biggest passing opportunity for Burton. Makes it look easy there on the exit of that second chicane.
And he was able to do that. He was able to do that on cold tires too. All the more impressive for number 26. So, yeah, we've seen a fuel run thus far be about 22, maybe into the wall.
That's
Hang
the wall.
on, Wyatt Burton a little bit wide on the exit of 11. That was the 26 of Wyatt Burton. Got both left side tires. And Jake Cummings is right there. That is for position. Cummings, I don't think has to pit anymore this race, but wow.
I see that we have Crump on the push-to-pass. I'm curious on the push-to-pass numbers that are left for both of these gentlemen here, and also everyone that's ahead, because push-to-pass here, obviously, each car gets 200 seconds of push-to-pass to use throughout the race. There is no limit on how much you can use at a certain time, when you can use it, other than the fact that push-to-pass is not available on the first lap of the race. So as we see those push-to-pass numbers on your left side on your ticker, looks like Wyatt Burton has somewhere in the range of 84, and Jake Cummings only has 22. Those push-to-pass seconds are going to be extremely valuable as Wyatt Burton tries to claw his way back to the front.
Doesn't look like that damage affected Burton too much, but if I was Cummings, I would try to use it as soon as I can to stay in that tow. I mean, we've seen that before where, you can kind of stay in a line, you can kind of stay as a snake a little bit, and you don't have to use, you don't have to push the car as much to stay close to a guy if you can get the draft down the straightaway. So if I'm Jake Cummings, I'm thinking right now, hey, I only have a few seconds of push to pass left, but I want to stay as close to the 26 as I can for as long as possible in case he makes some sort of mistake, in case something happens. And hang on, boys, it just got even more exciting. Yeah, I was just going to say that. Clint Halterman has now dropped down pit road, pitting with just 7 laps to go. He has come in, I believe that's Andrew Voigt, who's a lap down. I believe also putting on alternates. So I'm guessing what we're seeing is the alternates actually come up to temperature pretty quick, and they've been pretty good on the short run. Good enough that they are worth the pace of an entire pit stop. Interesting stuff. Didn't know we were going to see that for this one, but yeah, just 7 laps to go. Halterman was for sure good on fuel, so this is a tire play.
Yeah, and we're going to have to see the fuel numbers after the race, obviously, not 100% sure, and we'll have the chance to talk to some of these drivers, especially interested with Cale Davidson. But, most of these drivers here, this red tire is going to be the preferred tire for the last little bit. As you know, it was super foggy. Now the clouds are out. The track temp is a little bit warmer. You're going to get a little bit more grip out of these reds, but you're going to need to use them within the parameters, which is the amount of laps we have left. If there's a long green flag run on these red tires, they're going to wear away really quickly, but this might be the perfect amount of time to catch up as we see Clint Halterman trying to catch up to Jake Cummings here.
And there was a little bit of a battle for the 7th spot. Ryan Whitlock able to get ahead of Thomas Crump. Whitlock is right now sitting the last car on the lead lap. He's run a pretty clean race. I think, unfortunately, for me, I can show a little bit of bias. I've already showed enough bias this race. I might as well show a little bit more bias for my coach and friend Ryan Whitlock. I think he's going to be kicking himself a little bit here for just a couple of small mistakes, but for the most part, he's kept this race pretty clean. He's kept that car clean. He's kept both front wings on it, which is better than can be said for quite a few drivers. So, decent run for Ryan Whitlock. I think he'll take a top 10, but hey, it still isn't over. There's still 5 laps to go. Whitlock, I think for sure, is good on not having to pit again, but he looks to me as if he opted for those prime tires, and finding himself here with only a few laps left, that is not going to be the tire that you want to be on.
What a beautiful face that Ryan Whitlock, let me tell you. Gotta love that mustache. And I'll show a little bit of bias, obviously. You all know, if you tune into our channel, the esteemed panel, if you will. Got 2 of the 3 of us racing tonight. As I said, obviously, I'm out for tonight. Enjoying from afar and from across the country from my rig, so it'd be a little bit hard to race tonight. But looking like Ryan Whitlock will be the best finishing panel driver as we see Clint Halterman on the outside of Jake Cummings. This is coming up to the final corners here. It's going to be 2 by 2.
There was contact.
Oh, that was probably just him trying to lift, and Jake said, no, I'm not going to lift, and Clint said, no, I'm not going to lift, and then Clint obviously was like, oh no, I probably need to lift. And we're going to get a replay of it here as we see these cars moving 100 million miles an hour in reverse coming up to the final corner here. This is the onboard with Clint Halterman. Push to pass on. Heavy, hard right-hander here. Heavy braking here. Going to take a right hand and, just locks up. It gets a little spooked, I think. Going to have to live another lap and try and overtake the next opportunity.
And yeah, it did look as if there was a little bit of net code there. I think a small gap was maintained all the way through the corners, but even if iRacing had not given them net code, I think they were still going to hit as Halterman got that draft and got right back to the outside. This is the outside of turn 8, and Cummings, I don't think he hit him, but he certainly ran him wide there. Cummings does not want to give this up. This is the battle for P4. They've both gotten ahead of Ben Fiore.
I think Fiore pit, guys.
Yeah, Fiore. Something happened to Fiore because he was...
This has got to be a fuel thing. I mean, I haven't been here for the whole time, but I think that fuel numbers might be just a little bit off.
Definitely something interesting going on. I mean, we saw guys go.
Here we go. Pass to the outside again.
Late move. Same spot here, turn 14.
He's got the run off the corner, going to get to the left, and you're going to want to be on the left side here. You're going to want to be on the left side as the preferred line entering this turn 1. Can he open up enough to get the space? And they're still side by side. Yep. And
both cars off track. Oh, heavy damage. Cummings got into the corner way too deep.
What a contact right here on your screens on the CIL iRacing YouTube. You guys just witnessed one of the biggest wrecks this season for a top 5 position. Look at this. Jake Cummings trying to make the inside work, gets the curb, and just locks up right into him. I might not be a race steward, but I'm going to say that that's probably Jake Cummings' fault.
And that would be actually, this was something we forgot to update on earlier. That would be the second consecutive race that Cummings has had to serve a penalty. He was also penalized at the end of the Texas race. So we inaccurately said that Cummings was scored third. It was actually Cale Davidson that finished Texas in third.
Well, that
And
would actually
unfortunately,
be 3 or 4 weeks in a row with Jake Cummings penalties, going back to Suzuka with his lap 1 incident with Ben Fiore, none other than Ben Fiore, who's right ahead of them now. Obviously going to battle it out to the end. These guys looking like they might survive to live a couple another laps. We'll see if they pit here, but last couple laps, I think you got to just push with what you got and pray that you can get to the end.
yeah, a ton of damage on the front end of Cummings' car, though. I think the damage, despite the fact that Cummings was technically at fault, he got the worst end of the deal. And that car is just not going to want to drive. But Halterman locked it up a little bit there. Some mistake out of the 100 car, not letting him get away super easily. Cummings still within a second. I don't think Cummings is going to have the grip or the car to make the pass. Certainly lost a lot of downforce, but man, he saw an opportunity. He tried to take it. And when the track switched back from the left-hander turn 1 to the right-hander turn 2, he kind of, I think, had a moment of if gap car, and unfortunately the gap closed up just a little bit too much. Both those cars taken out into the runoff. Ben Fiore sneaks by into the 4th position, but still about 5 or 6 seconds up the road to Wyatt Burton. You see on board with Ben Fiore, you can't even see the 26 car.
And it was rather impressive that Cummings was able to hold it on to the outside of turn 1. But like you said, just both of them locking up, both of them fighting for every ounce of position they can possibly get. And just ends in a little bit of tragedy for them both. Not too much tragedy. Lost only a spot out of it for both of them. Well, Cummings lost 2 spots, but obviously a bummer for both of them. Not the way they want to end their days, and obviously not the way they want to race each other.
And I have to imagine that part of the reason why Cummings was able to stay on the outside of turn 1 is because he drove in with a ton of speed, trying to make sure that he was alongside. And then when it came back to turn 2, it honestly looked like to me he realized a little bit too late that he had too much speed to successfully make the corner, and that's why the lockup happened. So an aggressive move to try to put himself in position. You know, you can't get mad at the man for trying. I mean, yeah, he's going to get penalized, but that's racing. I don't know. The move, you know, was certainly questionable, but man, it was exciting and it was good to watch, and it made a highlight reel for sure, you know.
Even if the rule book says that you're a fault, doesn't mean that it's good TV. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
obviously, good TV day. And speaking of good TV, I'm going to leave you all with Cade Corbin to finish this race. Thanks for tuning in to the Formula College Series. And Cade, bring it home, buddy. Get some tea, maybe get some hot chocolate, and let's see Alif win another one of these things, huh?
Yeah, this is our Muhammad Alif going for, I believe, his 4th win of the season. He won at Mid-Ohio and Road America and Suzuka, and he is going to add another one to the name today. Right in front of him is Ryan Whitlock. We've talked about Ryan, pretty accomplished road racer, and our Muhammad Alif is just about to lap Whitlock. So that shows you the pace that Alif has. He's got 21 seconds on his teammate. Our Muhammad Alif going to come through 12, now going to come into turn 13 and turn 14 for the final time, past the wall of champions for the last instance. And Alif is potentially a champion, but our Muhammad Alif wins at the Succa Gilles Villeneuve, and he is going to celebrate this one with his Ball State teammates. We're going to wait another 20 seconds, and hopefully Cale Davidson cross the line in a second. There's Davidson, right behind the lap car of Adrian Tubakovic. Cale Davidson past the wall of champions as well. Going to swerve that car just a little bit, but Cale Davidson of Ball State comes home P2. And a little bit of confusion there, but yeah, the Ball State guys going to park together and celebrate together, and rounding out the top 3, rounding out the podium past the wall of champions as well. Arguably your oval champion for the season, Wyatt Burton, turn 13, turn 14, clean, no contact, and I think that is a day he can be happy with. Felt like a pretty good strategy, had pretty good pace, you know, nothing for the top 2, but as something happened there after the flag, cars on top of each other. Have to imagine that's just guys messing around. I can't imagine there was anything too intentional there. but we'll get a replay of it nonetheless. Oh, yep, that's Lucas Moody. Ball State driver decides that he's got to crash that car one more time. Moody actually had a pretty good comeback. He managed to recover all the way up to the 11th position. And yeah, Moody saw his Ball State teammates sitting there and decided that he was going to join the fun and trash that car for the last time. Yes, there is a reason why they call him the Moody Missile, and he came streaking in. Ben Fiore, Clint Halterman round out the top 5. Halterman able to hold off Jake Cummings. We'll see if Cummings is penalized post-race or not. But that being the case, Ryan Whitlock will round out the lead lap in 7th. Thomas Crump, first race of the season, brings it home 8th. We didn't talk about him much. Didn't make too many mistakes and had a clean race. So good stuff for the driver from Clemson. Competing in the alumni division. R. Muhammad Alif going to burn it down with his teammates. 1-2 sweep for Ball State, which means we will get ourselves a chance to interview the top 3 as is typical, and we will also get a chance to interview Clint Halterman and maybe ask about that late race contact. I don't think that's the first time that Halterman and Cummings have made contact late in the race, battling for a top 5, so that'll be something to check in on as well. But we'll get you interviews with those 4 drivers here momentarily. We'll let them celebrate first, maybe get a drink of water. Just like me, talking about racing is difficult on the throat, but so is racing itself. It's a mental game, you know. It's exhausting, it's tiring, and the Ball State guys out there did a fantastic job today. All right, I got my water. You can look now. All right. Yeah, overall, just a fantastic race. You know, we haven't seen a disappointment all season. You know, there was a lot of good strategy going on. There was a lot of things to talk about. Guys pitting with 5 laps left, 6 laps left. You know, we thought, oh yeah, they can go 21 laps easy on a tank of gas, but you know, it shook out where some guys felt like they needed to pit to be on better tires or they needed more fuel. You know, there was a couple guys that just sort of drive-throughs, but there were some really good comebacks there as well. Lucas Moody able to recover up to the 11th position. I think we saw Dylan Beatty hang on to a top 10, quite a few different things. So we'll get the final rundown and we'll go through that and we'll see those comebacks as well. But yeah, every single driver, it felt like, went through a story, and it was super fun to cover those stories, super fun to bring you the live action. And yeah, that's CIL racing for you. Not a whole lot of dirty driving, you know, most of it was pretty clean, but it was still interesting, still aggressive. That late move there, Jake Cummings, Clint Halterman, you know, getting together, just, you know, that's the pressure of racing in the top 5 and knowing that you got to make a move for that spot. Same thing with Cale Davidson. You know, we saw him, Wyatt Burton inside the top 5, knew that he was fighting for it, made a mistake, you know, missed the corner, had to serve a penalty. But then by the end of it, he was able to drive back up through the field, get back on strategy, hold off Ben Fiore, and able to get the 3rd position, round out the podium. So he should probably be the first one that we talk to. If we can go ahead, Wyatt Burton should be first. So we'll get Burton up here in the booth. There he is, Wyatt Burton, Mr. Excitement. Welcome back up to the booth. P3 for you out there today for Montreal. How did your race go? How'd you feel?
I was pretty happy with it, considering I missed the last corner 3 or 4 times.
We covered that. It looked like a pretty tricky corner, but able to buckle it down. You know, what's kind of the mental process that you go through when you're thinking, okay, hey, I've made the mistake, you know, a couple of times. You know, what are you talking yourself through? What are you thinking about trying to not do that again?
Basically just forget about it. Don't think about it in your mind. I knew that I was behind Ben, and with the draft, it was really hard to pull away over a lap. And I think he burned off his rear tires a little bit, and I was able to cross him over and get it back.
Well, it was definitely fun to watch, and it was fun to watch the strategy there. There were a lot of guys that pit late. What was kind of your strategy towards the end of the race there? And what tire did you want to end the race on?
I went as long as I could on every stint except for the last one. I wanted to run... I think I ran 9 or 8 laps on reds. I wanted to basically get on those, and then I think I still had 60 or 70 seconds a push to pass. So I figured if I came out ahead of all the guys I was running with, I could hold them off, and it worked out.
Well, it seemed like it did work out. It was a great race, great fun to watch. Had a great long battle there with Fiore, and you were able to come out on top. So, anybody you want to shout out? Anybody you want some recognition for this one?
Shout out to my family as always, and a couple of my friends.
Alrighty, well, thanks for joining us up here in the booth doing an interview. There is Wyatt Burton, your P3 from the race. Let's go ahead and take P2 now. Cale Davidson joining us up here. Cale Davidson from Ball State. Second place, but still the point leader, although that gap is shrinking just a little bit. How'd you feel about that race?
Do you know what that gap is? Because I just pulled up the points currently right now.
Ooh, I can do a little bit of mental math. Coming into the race, it was 12 points, and I think Alif outscored you by about 10, so it's pretty close to dead even by my numbers.
Okay, because yeah, it'll be close, but no, I mean that race was definitely something. At least at Ball State, we knew that two stop was possible, and that was kind of the straightforward. We're going to run a two stop and finish out the race that way. And I was kind of in a position where I'm like, well, if I do a two stop, I'm going to finish second place no matter what. So that's why I kind of talked with my dad, and we were trying. The three stop was looking like it could be an option, and just being able to go basically all out for all 60 laps. It did kind of work to an extent. I was still able to build a pretty big gap behind me, but just a Leaf's pace on fuel saving was just no match to it. So, I mean, going into it, looking at my two options, I either had a P2 or a P2 on which strategy I took, and one was more fun. I could just go and drive the car harder. So I definitely enjoyed that a lot more.
And P2 is definitely not something to scoff at either. You beat a lot of guys who are running really good, a lot of different strategies. So definitely don't hang your head over P2. But no, it was fun to watch strategy plays out. A lot of fun there. Which tire did you feel like that was the preferred one? And did it change? Because, we started the race, cold track. But, what were you thinking about tires throughout this one?
Yeah, so the entire time that I was looking at three stop, the practice sessions that we did, the alts fell off way too quick at around like lap 8 to 10, and the primaries were faster at the end of the stint. And just as an overall stint, I feel like the primaries were faster. But then when we got into the session, the temperatures changed, the humidity was different. So the alts actually completely surpassed everything we were all expecting, because even the other guys who were running the two stop, they were only planning on touching the alts once. We were trying to do as little time on the alts, but then it just, yeah, the alts showed up today and they were the fastest tire. And if I could have did all four stints on alts, I would have, but I still had to end up doing one on primes to get that tire compound change.
Well, all right. It seemed to work out good for you. Congratulations again on another great run. Anybody you got a shout out? Anybody you want to notice here?
Yeah, definitely want to shout out all my teammates, especially Leaf for somehow beating me while fuel saving with that insane gap. And then our esports directors, Dan and BK, then all my other teammates, Alif, Lucas, Kelton, Jake, Dylan, and then Nick. I feel like we put on a decent show. And then shout out my mom, my dad, and my grandma and my grandpa.
All right. Well, thank you. Hopefully, you'll be joining us up here in the booth next week as well. Cale Davidson, your P2. So let's go ahead and bring in the winner, our Muhammad Alif from Ball State University. Congratulations, Mr. Alif, on win number 4. You're starting to put us to sleep here with these wins, but congratulations once again. Great race.
Thank you. Call me CM Punk. That's my finisher, and I'll go to sleep. If you guys watch WWE, that's a good reference there. But yeah, good win. Good win. Good 1-2.
So we talked a lot about strategy. We talked kind of the 2-stop, the 3-stop. We did want to know, had a little bit of a debate. What was the original fuel number? And then how much did you push it past that number?
It was gonna be 20 laps for me at least. Actually, for the team, we were all going for the 2-stop. But 2-stop fuel saving can be very boring, especially 60 laps. So I kind of understand why Cale went for the 3 stops just because it's a lot more entertaining that way. But yeah, the plan never changed really for me. Hit the 20 lap, and same thing for the last stint, 20 laps, and yeah, went for that.
I did want to ask, how much did the track change? We saw the sun come out, about lap 10, 15, and it definitely started to heat up a little bit. Did it feel like it changed a lot, or was it super slick the entire time?
Oh yeah, it heated up a lot actually. It went from, I mean, I use the units that the rest of the world use, which was degrees Celsius. That was like 22. I was at 22 Celsius. It heated up to 36 Celsius, so that's a big jump in terms of that. But I really can't tell what's it in Fahrenheit. Very sorry about that. But but the main thing was the humidity dropped as well. So having to manage that, the wind was very strong going into the second half of the lap. So yeah, having to manage all that and the track changing just kind of rewarded someone who could adapt and put some margin on their driving. So yeah.
Oh, I did those numbers for you. That's about a 75 to 100-degree swing in
There you go.
Fahrenheit for
Yep.
all of us Americans who want to think that we're special and different. But congratulations once again. We talk about it. We talk about it like, oh, it's so easy. Oh, Leaf went out of one. But no, really, congratulations. 4 wins. Go out there, get 4 more. Why not? But anybody got a shout out? Anybody got to recognize?
Yeah, the whole team, whole Ball State team. Big shout out to Kale. That was a very cool fight. First 10 laps. And my parents back home, Singapore. Shout out to them. The whole Ball State Esports organization. BK, Dan, Daniel Budaspa, so our sports psychologist, and you guys for the show.
All right, well, thank you. There is R. Muhammad Alif, your winner of the student classifications for the race. So let's go ahead and bring in your alumni winner, Mr. Clint Halterman, UNC Charlotte, back up in the booth with us. How was your race?
It was all right. Kind of realized my plan going in was to only do one stint on the reds, and quickly realized that there wasn't much tire fall off. So I did 2 stints on the blacks, and then kind of realized the reds would hold up. So had to change strategy there and go on the reds. But yeah, I felt pretty good. My pace was decent. I was catching up to Wyatt and Fiore, who were like 8 or 9 seconds in front of me at one point. And yeah, just had some good battles. Unfortunate with I feel like probably could have gotten P4 at the end there. Unfortunately, had some contact. But end of the day, won't complain about top 5. Been been pretty consistently getting top 5s recently, so I can't complain about that. I feel like sometimes I overdrive in this series, so I've tried to rein it back a little bit, and that's been helping me the last couple of races.
I can see your camera here. I know we can, but you definitely seem super exhausted and definitely pretty sweaty after that one. But it's definitely exhausting. Definitely, excuse me. Definitely hard out there. So, what do you think was probably the most difficult part? And it's tiring, exhausting. But what do you think was the hardest thing to manage out there?
I mean, this was a long race. This was an hour 23-minute race. I think I think this has to be our longest road course race of the season. With if most of the field doing 3 stops too, when other races are 2 stops, that was kind of just the endurance of a road course race. I think can be a little bit more physical than an oval, where you have some longer. You're on the straight longer to kind of relax a little bit. Obviously, Indy was different. That was a 3-4 hour race, so that one was really exhausting. But this one, yeah, it was a lot of tight corners. It's a little. I mean, basically every corner is a slow corner, so you got to be really pretty pinpoint accurate. And with some of the walls around here, of course, it's super easy to hit them. So, and then the curbs are it's so tempting. I know in the F1 game, this is my favorite track because you could just you could cut every corner basically, get away with it. And it's kind of similar idea in iRacing, but you can't quite get away with it because the curbs are more aggressive than that game. So yeah, it's a deceivingly difficult track, I think. And just the long race, a 60-lap race here, that's no joke. So definitely was a physical race, and definitely got me sweaty for sure.
Well, thanks for the insight. Go get some rest. Go relax. But yeah, before you do that, anybody want to shout out here? Anybody got to recognize?
Yeah, I just want to shout out Orange Whale Racing, of course. Brought home some decent results. Thomas Crump, I think, made his first start of the season. He brought home a solid top 10, so that's cool. Yeah, and then shout out to y'all for putting on the race tonight.
All right, well, thank you. Clint Halterman gonna get himself some water, just like me. And we are going to wrap this one up here. So overall, pretty good race. Let's take a look at your complete rundown. For the race, we mentioned there were a few shakeups late towards the back of the pack, so we'll get those covered for you. But up front, you already know Muhammad Alif 22 seconds ahead of Cale Davidson, who was another 26 ahead of Wyatt Burton in third. Ben Fiore just misses out on the podium in fourth place, grabbed a couple spots late, just ahead of Clint Halterman, who rounds out the top 5 for UNC Charlotte. Jake Cummings for Converse University, 6th. With a little bit of late contact. 7th for Ryan Whitlock from the University of Alabama in Huntsville. Last car on the lead lap. Then Thomas Crump, as mentioned there. Actually, his series debut, not just a season debut, but from Clemson University, 1 lap down in 8th. Beats out Dylan Beatty in the 9th spot for Ball State. And Christian Hill manages to get a recovery up to 10th, his first race of the season for Mount St. Mary's. Lucas Moody able to work his way up to 11th. Got Keegan Calick there at the end. Calick for St. Clair comes home 12th with Andrew Voigt for Penn State in 13th. Jason Wallet 14th for Drexel. Alex Finity 15th. Adrian Tubakovic 16th. Aiken Lamar holds off to 17th after a little bit of a spin. And Jacob Dick winds up 18th, 3 laps down. Able to gain a couple of spots there. Andrew Burrell 19th in the 121. Matthew Nordberg crashed out 33 laps to go, so unfortunately Nordberg scored in 20th. 21st, Marlo Duncan for the Milwaukee School of Engineering. Nick Henley for Ball State, 22nd. Nick Stockner, 23rd. Zohir Mirza and Joseph Grozalva all out of the race, and Caden Hughes, I do not believe, was able to start. So unfortunately, Grozalva and Hughes for Purdue and Burton Parker College will round out the field. But hopefully most of these guys will come back next week. We've already talked about it a little bit, but we're going to Road Atlanta for the Road Atlanta Grand Prix. A little bit of a home race for myself and Orange Wheel Racing. So a lot of guys have a lot of experience at that track, which means that we should see a pretty good one and a pretty competitive race. That being said, we are now getting close to the tail end of the season. That'll be the 9th race of the year. So now we've already got, 8 races. We kind of know our baseline. We know who to look out for. We know who's going to be competitive, and we know who's trying to turn things around. We've seen guys like Moody and Lamar, a lot of contact, a lot of damage. Some things happen that maybe aren't even in their control, and they're still caught up in those wrecks. So they're going to want to be turning that around, trying to find something here in the second half of the season that's going to get them a little bit better. And then you've got guys who want to maintain the momentum, right? Cale Davidson, Muhammad Alif, they're teammates, but they're deadlocked in a points battle. The official math, unfortunately, hasn't come out yet, but by my calculations, it's Cale Davidson just 1 point ahead of Alif. And so that gap is going to continue to fluctuate all through the rest of the season. It's been back and forth up to this point, and we have some pretty crazy races left on the schedule. Road Atlanta, I think, is an opportunity for somebody else to come up and steal one. We've got Michigan on the schedule. That's going to be crazy. Next special event is in a couple of weeks. That's Iowa. That one is going to be definitely something for sure. 2 races in one night, and we've seen the Obals be maybe a chink in the armor for Ball State. And so that's an opportunity. How about Wyatt Burton? How about Ben Fiore, Clint Halterman, Jake Cummings? They've all been up there in the top 5 consistently this season, and I've no doubt that that's going to continue. So we'll see how the rest of the season plays out. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be one that you aren't going to want to miss, so go ahead, stay tuned here on the CIL YouTube channel. I should be here for most of that race, and hopefully we'll get somebody up here with me so I don't have to talk as much. But I don't have anybody to break it down with, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Thank you all for tuning in. The next time that we'll be broadcasting will be this upcoming Monday. The NASCAR Cup Series will be racing at Las Vegas, and that's going to be a fun one as well. Both myself and Ricky will be competing up there, and it'll be, I believe, Alex and a couple other guys broadcasting that one. So come out, tune in, come check it out, and it'll be fun. Always a good time here on the CIL. But thank you all for watching live from the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and we will see you next Wednesday.